Boxing truth here. It was a crazy night of action in the whole fighting world. A few surprises Saturday night took place. A couple of them took place in the UFC. Two big upsets, but in the boxing world, an upset took place on that Showtime card, and it featured Antoine Douglas, one of the prospects I've been following for quite some time. I liked his fighting style. He was in some good fights, good performances, had some good knockouts, and also, most importantly, he wasn't being babied by his promoter. He was being thrown in tough very early in his career. When he fought Michael Soro, earned a draw. It was good to see. It was good to see Antoine Douglas' team testing him out early in his career, under just only 20 fights, but he was fighting very, very experienced guys, undefeated prospects, knocking out undefeated guys. So he looked like he has some promise. He definitely had potential. I like the way Douglas fights. He makes for entertaining fights. But he has shown in the past that he is beatable, that he is flawed, and that he can be beat. And that happened tonight in an unexpected win by, it's hard to pronounce this guy's name, Khurtsidze. I just can't pronounce his name. He's from Georgia, but I watched the fight not knowing what the result was. When I watched the fight, it was already done with, but I didn't check on who won. I watched the fight not knowing who won the fight, and by the second round, I saw the makings of an upset. The first round, Khurtsidze, he just came out guns blazing, not intimidated at all. He just overwhelmed Douglas with pressure, a lot of will, heart, activity. He wouldn't stop punching, and I have to question the matchmaking this fight, because Khurtsidze, he had a lot of momentum going into the fight, a lot of experience, over 30 fights, he's ranked by the WBC, so he's a contender. So, however, they probably thought, he's a much shorter guy. He's only 5'4". That's what's crazy about it. So he had a really significant disadvantage in height, because Antoine Douglas is 6 feet tall. And Khurtsidze, he's only 5'4", so they figured, yeah, he's an aggressive guy. He'll get caught trying to come in, and maybe Douglas can knock him out. But this guy is strong as an ox. He's small, but he's really strong. He's strong looking, 35 years old. But the guy came to win. He came to fight, and it was a crazy fight. It was a hell of a fight. Mostly one-sided. After the knockdown in the 7th round, the second knockdown of the fight was pretty much over, but I liked the way Douglas responded in the middle rounds. He was getting his ass whooped, a lot of adversity thrown his way. He was getting overwhelmed with the activity of his opponent, and he had a cut early in the fight, but it just seemed like everything was going wrong for him. But he turned it around in the middle rounds, won a couple of rounds, showed his grit, showed determination to get back into the fight, was throwing a lot of combinations, was looking like maybe perhaps he can get the fight back into his favor. But then the knockdown happened in the 7th round, and the fight was pretty much over after that. I felt the fight should have been stopped as early as the 8th round. Antoine just had nothing left. There was no mustard on his punches. He was fighting on instinct, fighting on toughness, and not wanting to get stopped by a little dude from Georgia. But that Georgia dude was strong, tough as nails, and he was on a mission. It was a dangerous fight though for Antoine. He took a lot of punishment. He was getting beaten down, physically beaten down in the 8th and 9th rounds, and it was just a matter of time before he got stopped. That 10th round, there was no point for that 10th round. Antoine Douglas had nothing left. there was nothing. He was spent. He was exhausted. I mean, that type of pressure, that type of pace, can take a lot of a young fighter. And now, it was a damaging loss for Antoine. It's going to be very tough to bounce back from that type of loss because he took a lot of punches. He took a lot of punishment. And he's only 23 years old. That type of beating like that, and early in your career, just only 20 fights coming in, it could definitely ruin a prospect, that type of beating. But it's not impossible. But Antoine's gonna have to go back to the drawing board. He's gonna have to take a long rest, recover his body, and make sure not to come back too soon because he has to heal those wounds. He's got to heal psychologically, mentally. That type of beating can really ruin a fighter. But I wish Antoine the best. I hope he could bounce back from this loss. I've been watching him for a long time. I saw potential. I knew he was beatable, but I didn't think he was going to lose tonight. I didn't do any studying on his opponent. Had no idea who he was. He was a late replacement, so I figured the matchmakers of his promoter would do their job. But they put him in with a tougher opponent than his original opponent. He was supposed to fight an older guy in Sam Solomon, who's not a puncher, who's experienced, but he's had some injuries. He ain't punching hard. He was nowhere near as strong as this guy Douglas was fighting tonight from Georgia. It was, they actually put him in there with a tougher opponent, but that's what they've been doing with Douglas. They're not babying him. They were putting him in there with solid opposition, undefeated guys, and they put him in this with a ranked opponent from the organization, and he showed what he's made of. He was just too much man, too much dog for him, and Douglas just couldn't handle the pressure, couldn't handle the activity of punches. Over 800 punches Khurtsidze threw in the fight. Amazing performance, stunning victory. He knocked Antoine Douglas out. Douglas was gracious in defeat, accepted his defeat like a man. I hope he can bounce back from this, but it's going to be tough. But damn, wow. What a fight, what a night. And let's see what the future holds for Khurtsidze, because I definitely want to see him again. He's only 5'4", a little dude, but man, could he fight? And Antoine, he's got to go back to the drawing board. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.